All right, I'm live. I'm live. I'm going to go ahead and start Instagram right now. Okay, there we go. First time starting Instagram on time. All right, guys. Hey, this is Bruce. Welcome to ConvoCourses podcast. And check out my shirt. Hello Kitty. Got that for Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy crazy 2025. It's going to be insane. But we're going to stay focused. We're going to stay teaching this GRC information technology. So this one's gonna be a preparation for something that's coming that I'm have been developing in the background. So let me just go ahead and get right into this. So I've got something called the GRC RoadMap that I'm developing, and I'm just gonna go ahead and start and introduce this thing. And the reason why I did this, why I'm doing this, is because I've been doing governance, risk, and compliance for a very long time. Since the beginning of my career in 2000, year 2000, I cross-trained. I was in the Air Force, and I cross-trained from being a physical security person for like 5 years as a military police officer. We called it security forces. Did that for 5 years, and I cross-trained into communications. And I started learning all the fundamentals of information technology. I did the help desk and I did all these things. And then they eventually put me in, we didn't call it GRC at the time. They put me in a place where I was doing compliance. I was an information system security officer. And at the time, it is not something I wanted to do, by the way. I wanted to fix routers and stuff like that. I was really big into networking. But the reason why I wanted to teach this is because, and the reason I've been teaching this is because I wish somebody would have sat me down and explained the big picture to me of why it was important to do it. Why do you need to do monitoring? Why do you need to do compliance? Why is it important? Because it just seemed like a bunch of documentation at the time. If somebody would have broke it down to me how important it was and explained to me it's actually in every industry and it's becoming more and more important, then I think I would have taken a whole different perspective on it. Another thing that I think is important to note is that it's an evergreen. It's one of the most, I would argue, the most evergreen of all of information technology. If you were to group GRC work into information technology, it's not even close, because IT, whether you're doing cloud or you're doing networking, or it changes a lot, and it's very dependent on the actual vendors. A lot of times the fundamentals pretty much stay the same, but the vendors are changed out a lot, or even the technology within the vendor sphere has changed a lot. But GRC is pretty rock steady. It does evolve and change with the times, and I would argue it needs to change a lot faster. But it's been one of those things where I'm not having, as a former network engineer, it just doesn't change as fast as other career paths in IT do. So that's why I thought it would be a good idea for me to tell people about it. It's been very rewarding to me. I've been able to travel. Not all jobs in GRC are going to allow you to travel. I mean, let me just keep it real with you. But the reason why I want to tell people about it is because it's just not talked about. Like, people are not, very recently people started jumping on the bandwagon and talking about GRC and governance, risk, and compliance and everything. But I've been talking about this for a very long time, right? So the roadmap that I want to present to you is an idea. And the idea is that there's two main things. Number one, everybody starts off in a different place. If you have no background in IT, you're going to start different from a person who's already a cybersecurity person who wants to get into GRC. It's going to be two different places you're going to start. So I always say start where you are. And that's the reason why, is because everybody starts somewhere different. You know what I mean? So the whole idea behind it, that's one of the main ideas behind the way I'm going to teach it. Another thing is that cybersecurity framework is what I'm going to teach. The reason why is because it's one of the best ways to understand GRC as a whole. GRC as a macro concept is easy to grasp. Um, but it's harder to get it into the context of what you actually do. Like, how do I use this practically in whatever or environment I happen to be in? If I happen to be in retail, if I happen to be in the military, how do I actually use this is a different question. Like, the concepts are easy to get grasped, as you'll see. But once you start talking about, okay, what do I do? So NIST cybersecurity framework, one of the benefits of it is it breaks down what you're supposed to do, what an organization's supposed to do, and if you're in that organization, what you're supposed to do. All right, so that's kind of the concept behind this. And it'll be a book, it'll be a workbook, it'll be a video, and I'm going to build a community around it as well. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to start where you are. We're going to establish the goals, and then we're going to talk about what are all the pieces and parts that go into GRC, that go into the NIST CSF specifically. And we'll go through some of these, so I won't hit them here. But we're going to start where you are, the goals, and then governance. What is that? What is identify? What is protect? What is detect? What is respond and recover? Why do we have profiles and tiers? We're going to talk about all of those things. And now, if you guys happen to be watching me on Facebook or on YouTube, I'm actually showing slides here. That's why I'm kind of like looking over. I have a whole slide deck that I've started developing. So if you want to go ahead and get even deeper, if you're taking notes or something, probably be better to watch me over there, because on TikTok, you're not going to be able to see my screen this time. So what do I mean by start where you are? I mean that wherever you happen to be, if you're new, if you're a student, if you are in high school, if you're in college, if you're already in IT, if you're in another career field, wherever you happen to be, you got to start there, right? I mean, obviously you have to start there, but then what do you need to do is what we're going to talk about from wherever you start. It'll be very clear to you as I show you the concept behind the direction that we're going to go here. But start where you are is a very, very important piece. So GRC, what is it? It's governance, it's risk management, and it's compliance. Very quickly, I could tell you this because I've been doing this. I'm right now working for the Department of Homeland Security doing governance, risk, and compliance. What do we do with govern? Govern is basically information management, and that's one level of it. There's many different levels. You have all the way down up from the C-level execs all the way down to a supervisor. They're all doing something involving governance. But you can also include people like the project managers, the program managers. All of these guys are a part of governance. And really everybody, all the employees in an organization are doing something in governance, where we are all marching in the same direction within the vision of that organization. Whether you happen to be in retail, you work for Walmart, you work for U.S. Air Force, whatever, right? Hey, Professor Black Ops, how you doing, man? So that's governance. Our organization has a mission or a business, and we're all going in the same direction. And governance is the culture and the rules, the internal rules that we need to get from here to there, the goals, the strategies, all that kind of stuff. And then we get to risk management. Risk management can get very technical. Now, risk management, whenever I've done these kinds of roles, it's been anywhere from a cyber risk analyst to a SOC analyst, where we're monitoring interesting traffic that's coming in, or I'm a consultant going to a location and doing a scan and telling them the results, because we're trying to manage the risk. Managing the risk means that I have to know what the results of a scan. I have to know what TCP/IP is and some of the packets. Sometimes I have to know that because I need to know what to block and what not to block. We're trying to control the risk of the organization. And this is something that's done at the governance level, at the C-level exec, all the way down to the regular user sitting at their computer who's not supposed to click on phishing links, right? All of us are part of managing the risk to our organization. Then compliance. This is what people normally think about whenever they think compliance. So it's ensuring the organization is adhering to the standards and the rules and regulations of whatever organization they happen to be working with. And I'll just give you a couple examples. I mentioned Walmart. So Walmart, one of the biggest way that they make money is by using card readers, right? Because you have to slide your credit card or your debit card or pull cash out or whatever, right? They have a point of sale device. So that point of sale device is controlled and governed and secured by something called PCI DSS. It's for protecting credit cards and debit cards because your personal information, your financial information's on there, all that kind of stuff. They have to be compliant with those laws in order to protect your information if you're in Target, if you're in retail, whatever. But it also applies to hospitals. It applies to name an organization, and they're supposed to be compliant. If they're not, a lot of times when they're not listening to compliance, so they're pencil whipping stuff, just kind of documenting things and saying that they're doing things, but not actually being compliant, that's when you hear about these gigantic hacks and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And to be honest, when I was in physical security, it was the same thing. If there was a dignitary that was, God forbid, something was happening to him, or somebody was chasing him or getting shot at or whatever, right? Whatever the case may be, the security was lax. People were not doing what they were supposed to be doing as far as the physical security was concerned. And it's the same thing with IT and in cybersecurity. If people aren't doing what they're supposed to do, that's when things go really wrong. And if you do what you're supposed to do, right, within compliance and having risk management and having governance in place, if you're doing all of these things, then even if something bad happens, the impact will be less. Does that make sense? Because our job as cybersecurity people is to manage the risk. And that doesn't mean zero risk. That means that we're making the risk tolerable. So where something happens, because anybody can get it at any time, right? If you're from a hardcore environment like myself, if you've been in the military, if you've seen some real bad things, you know that anybody can get it at any time. The best we can do is stay vigilant and manage the risk, meaning be prepared for the worst. Be prepared at all times. And that's what governance, risk, and compliance is all about for your organization. So let's get back into the slide deck here. And this is just a highlight. This is just a taste of the stuff that I'm going to deliver to you, because it's going to be more like a hands-on type thing. But another thing that I want to emphasize is that even if you don't think you know what GRC is, all of us use it on a day-to-day basis. Like whether you're at work, if you go to the store, if you've got an ID from the government, if you go into any government on any place in the world, including the local government, if you get a marriage contract, if you go to the hospital, God forbid, if you're getting checked out, even just the regular routine checkup, all of these institutions have some kind of governance, risk, and compliance. And if they didn't, we'd be in a world of hurt. I've been in places where they didn't have governance, risk, and compliance. I give you an example. I was in Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, like the places where I was at, it was something off of a movie. Like, I'm sure it's better now, but at the time when I was there, it was like a nightmarish hellscape. I mean, and this is a place that's had, like, I don't know, 30, 40 years of constant war with major powers coming into their country and stuff like that. It was wrecked, right? There was very little infrastructure to speak of. There was no, like just basic things you would think we don't even think about, that we take for granted. They didn't have it. And I was as a matter of fact, I was in Italy one time. Just a quick story. And one of the regulations that they're kind of lax on is driving. They drive like crazy there. South Italy. Maybe it's different now, but there was a wreck like right outside the base, and somebody went through the windshield. There was no regulations on the windshield. So I don't know if you knew this, but they made windshields here to where they don't break jagged. They have this stuff inside of the windshield. So if you happen to jettison out of the windshield, you won't get cut up, because they learned this way back in 30s and 40s when everybody started driving, is that if you get in a wreck and your body goes through the windshield, the glass will just dismember you. I mean, I hate to be graphic, but regulations, my point is, regulations are there for a reason. It's there to protect you. At one point, you could drive drunk with no seatbelt on. That's because there was no regulations. Well, it's the same thing in information technology. It was a time I remember when I first started, they had modems on all of the modems. I'm dating myself, but they had modems on the back of all of these PCs we had. And we had a network, and they found out they were getting hacked from the modems because there was no laws or rules within our infrastructure saying, hey, we need to take the modems out of the computers. It's just, think of compliance as something where we as a society are learning things as a group and saying, oh, you know what, we probably should fix this. All right, this is a back door into our organization. We should probably fix this. It's learning things over time and then mandating it so that everybody knows, hey, everybody here, we need to make sure we don't click on any link, we don't download things, we don't. It's really basic stuff that they codify. They put it in a document saying, yea, verily, everyone will listen to this. So all of us are experiencing this at your job, at the store, at hospitals, and God willing, the government. All of us are supposed to be abiding by governance, risk, and compliance. And if you have had any interaction whatsoever in our society, you have had exposure to it. And I'm going to show you some specific examples of what I mean by this. So, governance, risk, and compliance in action. It's in banking, it's in healthcare, it's in retail, it's in different governments, not just the US government. It's in the EU, it's in the UK, it's in Australia, it's in local government, it's in California, it's in Nevada, it's in the East Coast, the West Coast, it's in your province, wherever you happen to be in. They have GRC in progress, and it's to protect you, to protect your information. So you have exposure to GRC, right? So what I want to do is I want to extract that information out of you. And if you've ever worked in some of these industries, you'll be surprised that you have actually laid your hands on some kind of GRC that you didn't even know, because you just didn't know it was GRC. You didn't know the policies were GRC. You didn't know that the user agreement was part of GRC. You didn't know basic things that you're doing with security is GRC. So that's what this course is going to teach you to do, is to abide by it. And here's what it is. Now, in your journey to GRC, there's some things that are going to help you more than others. One of them is, you've ever been in a leadership experience. If you've been in a leadership role, any kind of leadership role, you've been a part of GRC. You've been in a part of the guidance and protecting the vision and enforcing the vision and roles of that company or that organization. It doesn't have to be a company. It could be a nonprofit. It could be the military. It could be whatever it happens to be. Hotel, whatever, McDonald's, all of these. If you've ever been in a leadership experience or a leadership position, you have been a part of governance, risk, and compliance. If you have a STEM degree, not just a computer degree, STEM, it stands for technical engineering, mathematics, systems engineering, technical work, any kind of technical work, engineering, and mathematics. Any kind of these kinds of degrees, these are very helpful to you in governance, risk, and compliance. It's not the end of the world if you don't have one. But IT certifications, some license will help you out. Industry standards, basic IT and governance, and we'll cover some more of these. The most important thing that all of us have to have, with no exceptions, is you're going to have some basic understanding of information technology. Because you get into these meetings, let me just tell you from personal experience. Like I said, I've been doing this a very long time. This is pretty much all I do and most of what I know. Whenever I get into these meetings, now I've been very, very technical and on the other end of it, where I was just writing policies or something. And something technical always comes up, meaning I have to understand some aspect of networking. I have to understand the difference between a server and a client. I have to understand a mobile device, that it's a computer and it has RAM and it has storage. I have to understand basic things about cloud computing, and the impact of things like AI, like how is that going to affect for me? For me, understanding basic information technology, I don't have to be the smartest, most competent IT guy in the room. That's not the ask. What I need to know is enough that I can follow why we're going in a certain direction with information technology. Why we don't need 2 firewalls in this specific place. understand and follow what's going on. There's subject matter experts who are going to know everything about the firewall. There's subject matter experts going to know everything about encryption. You'll be sitting in these meetings, but you got to know enough to follow what they're saying. So that's why I say a basic understanding of information technology is going to be very, very important to you. Now, there are parts of governance, risk, and compliance where they have to know very little or really even zero IT. And that's like some C-level execs, some of those positions, they don't have to have uh, any kind of IT knowledge. It will be helpful if they do, but if they're smart enough and have the wisdom to listen to the people who are supposed to be informing them, that would be great. But the thing is, if you don't know any, you can just they can get bamboozled, right? They can just be in a meeting and they don't know anything about it. So it's best that you know. There's some other ones like project managers. Sometimes they're so far removed from the process that they don't really have to know any IT, and they are part of governance, risk, and compliance. So there are some rare exceptions where they really don't have to, but if they know more about it, right, the more you know about it, the better you're going to be in your positioning. Hey, shout out Larry, shout out Delroy, Mike, how you doing? And everybody's watching me on TikTok. Thanks a lot for watching me, guys. I'm just going through some slides here of something that I've got coming soon. Another thing that we need to understand is a basic understanding of governance, risk, and compliance, in which I'm telling you now. But let's go through a few other slides here. So preferred backgrounds for GRC roles. I'm not going to lie to you. There's some things that if you have this experience is really, really going to help you out. It's not the end of the world if you don't have it, but if you know these things, it's really, you could probably apply right now to a GRC position. IT experience. If you have any kind of background in information technology, whether that's from help desk all the way up to building servers for Fortune 500s from scratch, right? Any kind of IT experience is really, really going to help you, because that is the name of the game. We are trying to protect the organization's assets, which are usually information technology and information and the data that's flowing across their network. Another one is project managers, because project managers usually have some exposure to the systems, to the processes, and what is supposed to happen within the organization. So this is, if you have this experience, it's really, really helpful for you to get a role in governance, risk, and compliance. You're still going to have to know basic information technology. If you've been in a leadership position, you've been exposed to more stress than most people have to go through. You have a maturity that allows you to deal with difficult customers and things like that. So your exposure to having a leadership background is really going to help you. This is why a lot of military people and people who have worked in the government a long time, this is why they excel at governance, risk, and compliance, because they have had this kind of rough experience that I'm talking about, that when they get in a GRC position, it's like a cakewalk for them. And then industries. There's certain industries that are really, really going to help you because they're very embedded in certain governance, risk, and compliance protocols, regulations, and things like that. And we'll go over a few of those, but just to name a couple: healthcare, financials, and in government. If you have background in any of these, it's really going to help you because they need IT folks all the time. It's not talked about a lot. Usually when they talk about loss of jobs, it's Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, but there's also industries that are in desperate need of GRC and IT type roles. Okay, so highly beneficiary. You don't have to have these things, but if you have them, it's really going to help you out. One of them is a security clearance. There's a misnomer about being in cyber, which is that you have to have a security clearance. And I'm telling you, you don't have to. I know because I've been in positions where I didn't need a security clearance. They weren't asking for my security clearance. And I was writing policies for them. I was writing security. Now, they did do a background check. A background check is not the same as a security clearance. Okay? It's not the same thing. A background check is usually done for employees who are going to be doing sensitive information. And you as a cyber person or a GRC person, chances are you're going to get exposed to sensitive information. So if you have one, it's very beneficial, but it's not the end of the world if you don't have one. A lot of jobs, they'll bring you in and they'll get you one. But if you have one, it's very, very beneficial for you. If you have a STEM degree in science, technology, engineering, systems engineering, mathematics, that's also advantageous. It's also going to help you out quite a bit. Of course, if you have a computer one, that's even better. IT certifications, any kind of IT certifications are going to help you a little bit to get that GRC position. There are some that are kind of the golden child, the chef's kiss of certifications, some of your professional level certifications, for example, but you've got the Security Plus, the CISSP. Certifications like that are really, really helpful to have if you're trying to get a GRC position. But if, like I said, if you don't have one, it's not the end of the world. All right, let's keep going here. So if you're starting from scratch, let's say you have none of those things. You have no background. If you're a student, you're just interested in this, the very first step is going to be for you to learn information technology. There's a very first step that you're going to have to do. Learn information technology. And the best way to learn it is to do it. So if you can get some hands-on experience with working with computers, working with servers, working with networks, working with cloud technologies, and these days you can get it. You don't have to pay a lot of money. If you have internet access, you can actually start working on stuff now. They've got courses where you can log on and create computers in the cloud. You can literally create an instance of a computer or a server in the cloud and start messing with it for free on AWS for up to a year, I believe. And then they're not the only ones who give that stuff away for free, give that training and the resources away for free. But even the stuff you have on hand, like if you have some old computers or something that you can mess with, all of those things are valid. That's hands-on experience. Now you need to know exactly what you're talking about and all the pieces and stuff that you're putting together. So I always advise people to follow some of the low-level certifications. If you have no training, one of the ways to self-train is to use a certification and use that as your building blocks, because they have a really good curriculum that you can use and go through it and then understand the difference between, say, storage and memory or whatever. So hands-on is a really good way to do it. And then study GRC concepts is another really good way to start from scratch. Leverage your information technology experience if you have information technology experience, any whatsoever. If you've ever built a project in school, like you guys had to build I remember when I was in school, we had to build like a pizza app, like or if you ever had to build a website, or especially if you've actually been in an organization and you had to fix workstations or something like that, then leverage that experience by talking about all the times that you've participated in the security best practices of an organization. Highlight any kind of GRC that you've touched that's making policies. If you've written work instructions, if you've written procedures, those are all parts of GRC. Like a lot of times people have done GRC, but they don't know what they've done. So that's what I'm here to tell you. Another thing is, if you've been in a managing type role, a program manager, a project manager, a supervisor, a director, anything, any kind of manager, you can also use that experience and leverage it for the GRC position that you're trying to get to. What do I mean by that? Well, as a person in governance doing management type roles, and chances are you've had to write policies, you've had to set policies, you had to enforce policies, you've had to do things to get the culture of the organization instilled in the employees and the people that you're working with. And those are areas that you could actually put in your resume right now to leverage your position in GRC. You've had to make strategic moves for the organization. Those are also things that you can leverage in your GRC resume. If you've ever worked in a large organization, whether it be the military or Walmart, or there's things that you have to do, like awareness training. Every large organization has awareness training. You can leverage that stuff as part of your GRC in your GRC journey. Physical security is another big, huge part of GRC. So if you've ever had to turn the lights on, you're working in retail, you had to go in, you were trusted with the keys to open up the business, to turn on the cash registers, turn on the lights. That means that at some point you had to make sure that the doors weren't already unlocked. Things like that. Things that we really take for granted. Making sure the camera systems are working. That's physical security. Are the lighting outside of the building, are they on or are they off? Is it dangerous when you're walking outside? That's physical security. These are things that you can leverage towards things like risk management and GRC, because GRC is a gigantic field that encompasses all of these things. You just need to know how to put it on your resume. Another big one that I'm really excited to talk about, we won't go super deep into it right here, but understanding industry experience. What do I mean by this? Well, if you've been in any industry, from retail to stocking in the retail, if you in the military, obviously, if you worked in the hospital, if you worked in financial sector, all of these have specific GRC things that you have actually done. You just need to know how to put it on your resume. And I'm not saying that you're going to put this on your resume and suddenly you get a job. No, there's other things that you need to do. Like for example, you do need to have an an understanding of information technology. And the more hands-on you are, the better. Okay. And somebody said, I did physical security, and so did I. And now I'm doing GRC. I work from home. I'm making six figures. It's been lucrative. Now I had to do a lot of things to get to this point. I'm not telling you that you're going to suddenly make $100,000 and work from home. I've been doing this a very long time, a very long time. But I'm telling you things that you can do to get there faster than me. Because there was things if I wish I'd known. And so that's what inspired me to do this. Because if I'd known this, maybe I would have gotten to this and been more excited about it a lot faster. It's just I had to learn the hard way. And so now I'm trying to tell you guys, listen, you've probably already done GRC. There are things you need to do to prepare yourself to get in this field. I'm not telling you it's easy, and I'm not telling you it's fun. It has not been fun. But what has been great is that it's allowed me to take care of my family. It's allowed me to take care of my family and even friends from time to time, because this has been a rock solid industry for me, a rock solid career, because it's evergreen. It does not change in like the wind, like some of these other things do. And that's why I'm preaching, and screaming to everybody, listen, you need to get into this, because this right here works. And it doesn't matter who's in office. I was good the first time Trump was here. I'm gonna be good in this one, God willing. You know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't matter who's in office. It hasn't mattered whenever they're changing. They're like, oh, they're gonna change everything. You know, one thing they don't change? They have to use best security practices, which involves governance, risk, and compliance. So, and then sometimes I remember there was a huge change in governance, risk, and compliance. I was in the military. And I got out of the military. I was a contractor. We were doing, at the time, it's called DIACAP, DOD Information Assurance Certification and Accreditation Program Project, whatever it was. I can't remember now. It's been a long time. But we transitioned from that to the NIST 800. And we were panicking. We were like, what the hell is this? It's got 1,000 controls. It's got this. You got to do that. Got to, but it turns out like it's actually it's easier to manage because it's very specific, right? With the old stuff, it's kind of all over the place. And then when you get in trouble for things you wouldn't know, like why and stuff. My point is, these things do change, but a lot of the things from that old DIACAP standard are still relevant because they're still best security practice. It's like the laws of physics. Like no matter what, there's always going to be gravity. You can build different ways to fly, but there's always the still same rules that we got to abide by. There's wind, there's gravity, there's basic best security practices that every standard has to do, whether it's ISO 27001, CIS V8, GDPR, whatever. It doesn't even matter. Like all of them. Now, there are some different things that are there and this is why I chose NIST CSF to teach with, is because there are things that are tweaked a little bit, like PCI DSS focuses on card readers. So there's some things about that you won't see in HIPAA or HIT Trust or High Trust or whatever it's called. Because that's hospital protecting patient data. There's certain like little things that are focused on. But in this CSF, the reason why it's very effective is because every organization has to do, they have to protect their resources. They have to identify their assets. They have to have governance. That's management of information security, information systems. They have to have a way to respond, incident response. They have to have a way to recover if they get hacked. Those are all the basic things that every organization has to do. And that is essential to governance, risk, and compliance. And so that's why in the government, in the GRC RoadMap, I'm going to focus on NIST CSF because everything else will align with it. All right, let's get back into this. So every industry, as I was saying, every single industry has governance, risk, and compliance. From hospitals to retail to hotel to manufacturing, you name it, all of the industries have it. So if you're in these industries, you actually have more experience than I do in certain cases. Okay, I'm having trouble switching slides here. There we go. Government sector, that's another one. Government sector, whether it's the military, federal agencies, state and local, all of them have some kind of governance, risk, and compliance. So if you have exposure to these industries, the aerospace industry is another big one, all the way up to space exploration, commercial aviation, drone technology. That it's the reason why people are freaking out is because the drones that we're in, I'm not going to get into that, but the drones that are flying around freaking these other cities, or people saying that they're drones or whatever, they don't know what they're flying over bases and stuff. And then when they ask the base, they're like, hey, what are these? And they're like, we don't know what's going on. So there's certain governance, risk, and compliance that's supposed to happen with these things. And that's why people are freaking out because, hey, these guys aren't following the rules. Why are they able to fly, do all this stuff? And people don't have answers. People are freaking out. Aerospace is super huge with GRC. It's super huge. I've worked in a couple different aerospace organizations, including Ball Aerospace. Education sector, I get a lot of teachers asking me, administrators from districts, from school districts asking me, hey, how can I get into this? Because it's hard out there. They don't want to pay teachers enough. Then they want to change the rules. Now they're talking about getting rid of the Department of Education. Like, what the hell? But the education sector itself has things like FERPA to protect student information. So every single organization, every single industry has some kind of regulations, some kind of risk management that they have to do to protect their data. And the ones that don't, like AI, for example, just to kind of sidetrack, they don't know what to do with AI right now. So they're scrambling to get governance, risk, and compliance on AI. A lot of people ask me, oh man, AI is going to take your jobs. I'm like, actually, it's going to help. It's going to help my job for a while until it becomes super intelligent. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen after that. But right now, it's probably going to make more jobs and help me out a little bit because I can use those tools that are going to speed up the process. I mean, I need help. So I wouldn't mind working alongside AI. Healthcare industry, pharmaceuticals, medical services, health insurance, all of these, just governance, risk, and compliance is super huge in the healthcare industry. So if you happen to be in that sector or the financial sector, it has its own governance, risk, and compliance. And there's certain things that you can put right now on your resume, right now, that will help you to get a higher paying position. If you happen to be in these positions, you might already be good. I get a lot of people in the healthcare industry asking me, how do I get in? And I always break it down to them. Like, there's things that that I am not privy to. So, things that they're more familiar with, the lingo of healthcare agency, like words like covered entity. Like, what the hell is that? That's something you probably already know what it is, So, there's certain terminology and certain cultural things that if you've been in that field, you already know the verbiage, you already know what they do, you already know how. There's certain software, like they in the healthcare industry, they have a software called Epic that's really big. If you know anything about that, that's huge to put on your resume. If you've ever updated it, if you've ever had to interact with it, you've had to protect information with it, or anything, that's a huge one. And then the financial sector has the same thing. They have certain tools, certain software, certain things that are, if you are in the financial sector and you know about them, you know how to protect them better if you know information technology to back that information up. So fintech is huge. And Professor Black Ops, he's backing me up here. His Epic security is big too. Yeah, exactly. Epic is something that, like, that's one of many tools. They also have medical devices that you probably have touched if you're in the healthcare industry, that you actually know how you probably even protected those things and you didn't even know it. So retail is another big one. Retail is Walmart, is Target, is Sam's Club, is Lowe's, is whatever. Name your favorite retail, and they are doing GDRP. Now, they don't call it GDRP all the time. They call it PCI DSS or something like that. But they are following governance, risk, and compliance. And so if you have access, if you have had to be at a point of sale device, which is a computer, by the way, it's linked to a computer in some way, shape, or form. They have to take sensitive information, your credit card information, and they have to store it in a secure manner on a secure network. And if they're not, more than likely, they're already getting hacked or they're going to get hacked, right? They got to do governance, risk, and compliance to protect that information. Technology is another big one. I get a lot of folks who are already in IT, like this might surprise you, but not everybody in IT is in GDRP. And so some people who contact me they're like a admin, they're a system admin or whatever, or they're a Unix admin or what, they're very sharp, or software engineers, and they want to get into they want to GDRP. Oh my Lord. They want to get into governance, risk, and compliance. GRC. And so there's software developers, cloud computing people. The thing is, you are probably more prepped than anybody to get into this, because it's all about that, protecting that stuff. And all you got to do is know how to put the best security practices on your resume and learn a little bit more about governance, risk, and compliance. And that's going to help you out significantly. There's also things that you can do. I mean, if you could write you've probably already written policies or been a part of the policy writing experience. And it's not just policies. If you've done a work instruction, if you've done any kind of standard operating procedure for your team to help people out, if you've done training. So these are things that normally in the technology sector, which I worked for Verizon for some time, and we were always training each other. We were training each other on cloud technology, on cybersecurity stuff coming out, new threats, different IT services. We were constantly training. I've trained people would train me. We were always constantly trading information. But those are skills that that's a part of governance, risk, and compliance. And you can name whatever kind of a framework you want. And most of them have some element of what's called awareness training. And what they mean is security awareness training, because we're constantly having to learn about new threats and new risks and new vulnerabilities. So we have to be up on this stuff. So that's a big part of governance, risk, and compliance. Okay, I don't have a lot more here. I just kind of this is a repeat, but things like for healthcare, it's going to be HIPAA, high trust, CSF, GDPR is, that's important for if you're in Europe, they use that quite a bit. And then there's certain terminology like electronic health records and what's the other one? PHI. There's certain things that they do in the healthcare industry that if you have exposure to the healthcare industry, you've probably done it before. So it'd be I'm not going to say an easy transition for you to get into to get to GRC, but easier. You have it better than a lot of people who are starting from scratch, especially if you're trying to get a job. And this is what you should do strategically, is get a job in the industry you're already in, because that's what I did. I was in the military. I just cross-trained, laterally made a cross-train into it, and that's how I got into it. I was doing physical security. I was fixing weapons. Yeah, I was a weapons specialist. You know what I mean? Like the farthest thing from IT you can imagine. So that's pretty much it. The rest of these are kind of repeat. This is the kind of stuff that I'm going to cover in an upcoming course that I'm putting together where, look at, you guys got to see this. This is crazy. Look at this AI. That is an AI generated image. Look at her. Anyway, sidetracked. Okay. Let me see. Got some people jumping in here. Thanks a lot, man. Professor Black Ops. I'm honored that you've been jumping in here, man. I appreciate you. Professor Black Ops, by the way, a little bit of a promo. This is somebody who I've been learning from. Go check out his YouTube channel, Professor Black Ops. He talks about governance, risk, and compliance for cloud. This is a man who's working directly in the financial and government space using NIST 800 and AWS Cloud and securing AWS Cloud, which is really niche and awesome. I love your content. Keep making great content, man. I appreciate it. All right, so let me read some comments. I got some comments on TikTok. I see you guys and some TikTok and some stuff here. My man Larry says, in my role as a project manager with IT governance division of my agency, I'm managing enterprise-wide projects using governance, risk policies, etc., but also needing to know enough basic IT principles to leverage that knowledge to lead teams, developers, testers, etc., and translate business needs as well as keep the business informed on technical updates. Yes, that's exactly why you need to know some information technology, even as an IT project manager or as a project manager. And he goes on to say, so there's absolutely crossover in my experience so far. Absolutely. So project manager is one of the ones that I've noticed is like, it's project management is so closely related to what I do. I've had people, IT cybersecurity professionals, get the PMP, project management certification, and just to have it on their list of on their title. So, and then I've been invited to be a project manager. Like it's very closely related because what we're kind of doing a similar thing. I would say the only difference is like similar in this way, because whenever we have a big project, which right now I'm on a gigantic project, I have to lead several different teams, like different technical teams, subject matter experts, and I've got to lead managers. Like I've got to speak their language, right? I've got to go talk to the technical guys and say, okay, here's what we need. Here's the policy guys. We have to change this and that. Hey, I'm going to need a ticket for you to do this and that. And then I've got to go talk to the manager and say, listen, this project's going to take a lot longer because the technical guys can't do X, Y, and Z until this date because we have this dependency. We have different things going on. I've got to speak both of their languages. I got to get in the weeds with the technical guys. And sometimes I got to do like a little bit more research because they're super deep on like firewalls or something, right? A specific Palo Alto fire, whatever it is. And then I've got to go talk to the managers and explain it in a way that makes sense to them. So that's why it's important for us to know both of those languages. As a project manager, the project manager lingo, talking to management, and then also the IT piece. So Larry is absolutely right with that. And project management, if you have any kind of experience with that, or program managers, any kind, but especially project managers, if you have experience with it, it's going to really, really help you out to know more about information technology, the guts of information technology. Take time to actually get those certifications or go back to school, whatever you have to do, right, to learn it, to pick it up or get your hands on it and understand it, because it's really going to be important to it's going to boost up your career for one thing, like, and you can go in different directions because once you know the stuff, right now, I can go into project management if I want it. I can be a SOC analyst. I could be a GRC policy wonk and just do nothing but write policies. I could do like I can go in all these different directions, right? With a twist of a button and learn it a little bit more. I can go in the cloud and just do nothing but that if I wanted to, because I know the foundation. So that's why it's really important for you to know as much about the foundational information technology as possible. So it's going to open up more doors for you. So if one door shuts, you can open up another and go through it. This whole thing for me is about opportunities. The more you know, the more opportunities and doors it's going to open. The more opportunities just seems everywhere. All right, let me see. Can you train me? Somebody said, can you train me? Yes, that's my whole purpose. My purpose in life is to train you. Keep following me. I got some stuff coming. I've got communities I'm building up. I've got courses I'm building. I've got a whole bunch of stuff coming. It's going to take me time to develop it. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm writing a book about governance, risk, and compliance for the roadmap and to get you from here to there. Somebody said, Bran Nisk says, going to school for my BAS in cloud dev ops and cloud dev security ops. That's awesome. That's a really good field to get into. It's really, really hot right now. It's I don't know if you knew this, but all the major organizations have some sort of cloud infrastructure, and even like things like Netflix is built on AWS, right? Like there's so much stuff built on cloud, and that's why it's just so hot right now. So anything you can do with cloud is really, really good. Is really, really good to get into, and it's going to open up a lot of doors. Only thing is, if you're going to school, I tell people this all the time, like a broken record. If you've been listening to me, don't wait to get experience. Like get experience right now, immediately while you're in school. As a working student, as an intern, as an apprentice, or even just projects, hell, become a freelancer. There's really no excuse. Get your hands on a computer, learn things like CLI, learn multiple operating systems, not just Windows, Linux, Mac OS. Learn the best security practices of each one of these operating systems. Learn the difference between an app and an OS. Like those are basic things, but if you know these things, networking, that's another one. If you know these things, if you have hands-on with those things, it's really, really going to help you out in this career. And not even to do our GRC, you can do something else completely different if you get a solid grasp of the essentials of information technology. Somebody said, I got the CGRC. Yep, got that one too, back when it was called the CAP. It's been a pretty lucrative certification for me, I gotta say. It was, I got the certification not expecting a lot, and it's been pretty. It's been doing this magic. Somebody said need to do pen testing too for PCI DSS. Yeah, so PCI DSS. Just off the top of my head, I mean, there was a couple of organizations that I had to use it at. And we did have to have pen testing, and I was blown away by how similar it was, how many similarities it has to the NIST 800. A lot of the things we were doing with PCI DSS were exactly what we did, and this really shouldn't be a surprise to me because in this CSF, NIST 800, different from the NIST CSF. The NIST 800 is so exhaustive that there's not many things you're going to do there that you're not going to do everywhere else. But yeah, pen testing was a part of what we did. We also had to have a segmented network because you had to have your network where card data is going through, had to be separate from your other network. Seems obvious, but that was like a big part of it. We had to have an inventory of all of the devices, and it wasn't just like point cash machines. It was like the little machine that takes the card. It was like all these different devices that you use to take information from a card. And so we had to have an inventory of that, and they had to be updated on a regular basis. So there was basic things that you had to do in PCI DSS. And that was for hotel industry, right? GRC, once again, right? GRC. So if you know these basic tenets, they just come up over and over again. Professor Black Ops is speaking in the building. Appreciate you. Appreciate your support, man. It really means a lot. Professor Black. Let me see if there's any other comments. Thank you guys for the support. I appreciate you guys. Happy New Year. Let's make it a good one. I know it's gonna be crazy. It's already 2025 is already crazy. We're only 4 days in. It's already crazy. Do you have any experience with a CISA? I don't have a CISA. CISA is a certification that's from the ISACA. I know that some of my peers have the CISA. I know that when we were doing PCI DSS, as a matter of fact, one of the requirements for QSA, I don't remember what QSA stands for, but it's pretty important for doing audits on PCI DSS, apparently. But some people on our team had to have both the CISSP and a CISA. Some of my bosses have had a CISA. It's a very important, big time certification. I know that it's used quite a bit, and not only the government, it's very well respected in the Department of Defense space, the federal government, but also in the financial sector. I know they talk about it quite a bit here and there in the US anyway. So it's a big certification. It's a professional level certification that's right up there with your CISSP and your, I believe it's above a C-risk, but it's right up there with a professional level cybersecurity certifications. It's one of the top certifications cybersecurity wise that you can get, because everybody knows, many people know what it is. So somebody says, also, since I have the CGRC, do you think it makes sense to get the CISA? So they're saying, since they have the CGRC, do you think it makes sense to do a CISA? CISA is no joke. So CISA is a great certification. It's way beyond what you're going to be able to do with a CGRC. So it's worth your time. Yes. If not that, a CISSP, they're on completely different realms. The CGRC is not even close to a CISA. It's a professional level certification. If you want some context, there's a really good website that breaks this down. It's called, if you just go to Google or Bing or whatever, your favorite search, DuckDuckGo, whatever, and type in security certification progress chart, you'll come to a channel called pauljeremy.com. And I don't know who this guy is. This guy doesn't pay me money, but I love this guy's website. It's awesome. Here's the website right here. Let me just remove my face here. And he's got this awesome updated on a regular basis chart. He doesn't have ads on it, nothing. He should put ads on this. If I was him, I'd put ads on it, which is probably why I'm doing this right now instead of being world famous like pauljeremy.com. So it's a security certification roadmap, and I really love this thing. Here's why. So let's say my man over here on TikTok or Kiki, they say that they want to know, they have a CGRC, but should they get the CISA? Well, with this progression chart, check this out. Let's see where we are. So GRC certificate, check this out right here. These are all GRC certifications. I want to make this bigger, but that's Paul Jeremy. If you're watching me, man, you got to make it so I can zoom in and out of this thing, because I can't zoom in and out. But right here, you have right in the middle of this thing, you have a GRC section of all your top GRC certifications, right? All the way from your FEXIN, which I don't even know what that is, to the Security Plus, to the GSEC, on up to the CGRC. And then right above that, you have the CASP Plus, which is now called, I don't know if you guys knew this, but CASP Plus is now called the Security X, CompTIA Security X now. CISA, let's see where CISA lands on this thing. So CISA, I believe, is up there. CISSP, they put really high on this list, just in the expert level. And the CGRC is also in the, well, it's in the intermediate level. CISA, and I'm having trouble finding the CISA, but I know it's on this list. Okay, that's why. CISA is under, it's between the security and risk management portion and the security assessment training. Security assessment and training, because a CISA, I believe, is an auditor certification. So it's not in the same realm. So to answer your question, based on what we're seeing here, and a couple other things I'll show you, but based on what we're seeing here, it puts them kind of at the same level, but they're different certs. A C risk, and this does make sense. A C risk is specifically for not C risk. The CGRC is specifically for governance, risk, and compliance, and it really focuses on the NIST 800. NIST 800. They say that they sprinkle some ISO 27001 stuff in there, but mostly it's the NIST 800, right? Between you and me. And then the CISA, on the other hand, is for assessments. So they're kind of two different things in two different realms. So if you're trying to get a certification, you probably think about where you want to go with your career, because it's going to have an impact on your overall career. I will say the CISA, and another thing I'll show you guys is that I've noticed about the CISA is that it is one of the top certifications out there. So if we go to, if I go to Indeed.com and we type, let me just give you an example here. If I typed in CGRC and with no location, I want you to take notice of the jobs. How many jobs come up with the CGRC? I typed it wrong. No, I typed it right. CGRC. There's 75 jobs that are mentioned in the CGRC. It might be because they changed the name. So it used to be called the CAP, ISC2 CAP, because that's a lot. That's very low. And there's even less jobs with that. They changed the name of the certification, and that might have had an impact on its popularity. But another thing that I can look at is CISA. Now, we have 75 jobs on the other one. This one has 4,000 jobs. People currently looking for this specific certification right now, 4,000 jobs. Now, let's use the CISSP. Watch this. It's one of the most popular cybersecurity certifications out there. That's most sought out. 8,000 jobs. So you went from 75 jobs with the CGRC, which I think it's a little higher than that, to be honest with you. I've had people ask me about it, but it's not even close to the CISA. I can tell you that. And the CISSP and CISA, it's just a very popular certification. And there's other certifications that are extremely popular, like AWS certifications. These are hot as hell, these certifications. This is the entry level one. Let's try this solutions architect one. Watch this. 9,000 jobs. Look at this. Cloud's no joke, man. But don't just chase shiny objects. What you need to do is think about where you want to go. Think about where you want to be in the next 5 years, and then just make a strategy based off of the next 5 years, and then whenever you do your education, whenever you're taking certifications, base it off of making strategic moves to go to the next level every time. And CISA will do that for you, especially if you want to broaden your horizons. CISA is a very good certification. CISM, somebody said type in CISM. Okay, let's go back to the board here, and I'm going to type in CISM. CISM. And it's got 2,000 plus jobs. Not bad. Not bad. That's a good certification too. It's one of the best. The top certification, one of the best certifications that are not a vendor level certification, is going to be a CISSP, and then followed by the CISA. And then when you get into vendor certifications, you got CCNP, which is from Cisco. That one's really good if you're a network guy. 2,000 jobs. And then you've got right now it's all about the AWS and cloud certifications. But like I said, like have a strategy of where you want to go. If you want to be a cloud guy, be like think this is how I think. Okay, if I was thinking about being a cloud guy, if I wanted to be a cloud, putting the clouds together, cloud solution architect, I'd think about what vendor has the highest market. That'd be either AWS or Azure. AWS wins. I'd focus on what are they doing? Where are they at with certifications? Do they have certifications? What's their tiered level certifications? What's the first one I should take? Right. So that's how I think. I look up the market. What are people going to need in the next 5 years? What is hot? What's going on? And you got to be careful with vendor level certifications because, like, I've gotten a couple vendor level certifications that are now gone. You got to keep up with them. One of the vendor level certifications that I had that at the time was hot was ArcSight. I was a SIEM guy, which means a security information event manager system. I knew how to put the thing together, build it, secure it, everything from scratch, from nothing. And I was taught directly from ArcSight to do it. And I did it for like, I don't know, 2-3 years. And then ArcSight got taken out. They got sniped by Splunk. And now Splunk is the most dominant SIEM on earth. So you just got to stay. If you get a vendor level cert, that means a cert that's owned by Microsoft or by Cisco or whatever giant company. Those certifications constantly are updated and change. And sometimes they have a time limit. And then sometimes they'll completely change it and then grandfather in another one. They change constantly. But when they're hot, man, you got to strike while the iron's hot. And they can be good. I'm not telling you don't get them. I'm just saying that, like, it's something that you need to watch out for when you get a vendor level cert. Don't you need 5 years for a CISA? Something like that. Yeah, you need to have some experience with a CISA. And I don't remember, let me see, requirements for a CISA. I know you have to have some years under your belt for a CISSP. I'm sure. Like, you have to have some years under your belt. And then you have to get an endorsement. If you've been in this field for a long time, that's easy. All that stuff's easy for you. But if you're new and trying to go for it, there's ways you can still get that certification. But let me see. I'm still researching the CISA, Certified Information Systems Auditor. CISA requires you got to pass the exam, of course. You have to have relevant work experience. It says at least 2 years of experience is a must. Let me see. 2 years of experience. Experience must be within the last 10 years prior to applying for the certification. Experience must be continuous with one organization. Oh my God, that's kind of strict. But it's only 2 years and within the last 10 years. So yeah, there are some requirements. Somebody said Professor Black Ops has been putting out some real good AWS. Yeah, man, that content is amazing. And it's right on time because it's really what I need right now in my career as I've been diving deeper into specifically AWS. It's been helping me quite a bit. And now that I'm starting to understand the technology behind it, now I can speak on it better when I'm in these meetings or whatever. If we have some systems that are AWS based. So, and I'm not working on them, but every now and then something comes up about it. And it's nice to have a better understanding of it. And it's something I could put on my resume, having, once I get this certification, I'm still going deeper. I'm going to take the first level of AWS certification. So that's why Professor Black Ops' teachings on his YouTube channel have been really, really helpful. And I'm still waiting for my course from you, Mr. Professor Black Ops, because I'm trying to give you my money, but you're not allowing me to do it. Okay, somebody said Once per year, testing for the PCI DSS or major changes. Oh, okay. There's once a year you have to do testing for PCI DSS or when there's major changes. That's very similar to what you do with NIST 800, where if there's a major change, you're gonna do all the documentation over again, and you're gonna have to do another accreditation package and everything, depending on how major the change is. Somebody said GRC jobs lie. They DM on LinkedIn and then ghost. I think you have to be really aggressive with it, because I think that it's very competitive. That's part of it, and me and Professor Black Ops talked about this, where they're very, very picky with people. There's a few issues with GRC jobs. Just keeping it absolutely real with you. Number one is that they're very picky with people who come in. And a lot of times, if the job is really good and it pays really good, it's very competitive. There'll be like 100 applicants on it. And another thing is that I've noticed that they have a bias on if you've been in the industry before. If you're in the healthcare industry, if you're trying to get a job in the healthcare industry, a lot of times they'll want somebody who has worked in healthcare. If they not to say that they won't hire you, because I've worked for healthcare organizations, and I've never been a nurse or or anything like that before, but some industries are a little bit more biased than others. I remember one of them was I don't know if maybe this is just a bad experience on my part, but I was trying to get into a utilities company, which I've never worked for. And I did an interview, and as soon as I said I'd never worked for a utility company before, I knew all the technology, I knew the stuff that they were using as far as the frameworks, but they wanted somebody who had already worked in that industry before. And I don't know if it's like that with every organization that does utilities, but that one, they were pretty strict on it. So there's several things. Like right now, the biggest thing with the organization I'm working for, is that they have a really long they take a really long time to get people in. They'll hire you fast, but their background check takes a long, long time. And then by the time you get in, by the time we're ready to get the person in, they go to another job. So that's how long it took. Mine took like 4 months, and I was looking for another job while they were, and I got a job. It took so long that I got another job while they were hiring me. It was a short-term job, but yeah, there's so many issues with GRC jobs. I mean, just to get in the door, but once you get in, I'm telling you, it's pretty solid. Don't you get 5 years experience for the CISA? Don't you need 5 years experience for the CISA? No, it says here, let me show you my screen. At least 2 years of experience. And then it has to be within the last 10 years, and it's supposed to be continuously with one organization. I mean, it's kind of strict. Oh, wait, here we go. This is what you must mean with applying for a certification. You must apply for a certification within 5 years of passing the exam. Apply for the certification. You got to pass the exam and then apply for the certification? Damn. That's crazy. Is GRC less technical? This is a great question. So GRC is a very, very broad term. It's been thrown around a lot, including by myself. It's a kind of a catch-all phrase, but some jobs, speaking from my own personal experience, some jobs have been very, very technical. I'll give you two. I'll give you an example of one that was very, very technical and one that was not technical at all. All right. So, and number one, let me kind of phrase everything here. Governance, risk, and compliance. Governance, think of it as like information management type work. Risk management, that can be very technical. Think of it as like scanning, risk compliance, things like that. Compliance, that's policies, procedures, documents, things like that. So there's a big spectrum, and I've done all three of these. And so I'll give you the two biggest extremes, starting with the most technical. So the most technical GRC job that I've done, one of the most technical, was when I worked with Verizon, and we were I can't remember the actual role. I have to go to my LinkedIn page, but we were cyber risk consultants. Basically, that's what we did. So Verizon has this business unit that does cybersecurity assessments, and we would get clients, large companies, small companies, medium companies, and then from the full range. Like you have healthcare, you have banking, you have manufacturing, you have all kinds of organizations. And what we would do is we have to do this full complex assessment. So it included network scanning, and it included looking at their documents, and then we would look at if they had pen test findings. We'd look, sometimes that was part of it. We did this complete range of things. It was very technical because you had to look at the results. You had to do the scan, look at the results of it, figure out like how they could fix that, write a report about it. And then you would work with a part of your team that was really good with firewalls, and a part of your team that was really good with, I don't know, networking or cloud or whatever the thing happened to be with their environment, and whatever we were looking at. Is very, very, very technical. And we were really in the weeds, and we had several people who would specialize on certain things. That was a GRC type position. But then you had I'll tell you the other side of this, where I was at another job where it wasn't technical at all. Actually, I'll tell you about two of them. One, I just wrote policies. They hired me to write policies. I mean, I had to know basic things like, what kinds of like what is a network, and what's the difference between a internal private network and what's the difference between an internal part of your network and a DMZ and the external part of the network. Like I had to know stuff like that because that was going in the policy, one of the parts of the policy that I was writing. So basic things, not very technical. Another one, I worked with the Air Force Weather Agency way back, and we were doing DICAP. So it was a long time ago. It was all documents. It was all documentation. And there was very little things, any technical things I had to know. I mean, I had been a very technical person. So actually some of the questions, some of the stuff I could answer on my own, but if I needed something that was outside of my range, because I was just writing the system security plan, that was it. That was my job. And I would just go to the subject matter experts and get more information. So it can get really, really technical, but it can also have parts that are really not technical. And I've worked with project managers who weren't technical at all, and they had to work with the security guys, because we were implementing security controls or something, and then they'd have to go and work with like the satellite team, and they didn't have to know about satellites. They didn't have to know about security controls. They'd have to know about the organization's process, and they had to know about the Army's process, very detailed. They had to really know that. But as far as like the technical details of, we were putting in Red Hat or something, they didn't have to know like the technical details. But then I worked with some project managers who did have to know something more in depth about what we were doing, because they were involved with the process. So it just depends. Those are all GRC things I've done or people I've worked with. And it's a very broad range to answer your question. It can be less technical for sure. And then Wayne says, it really depends, but mostly not. He says, you need to be able to analyze policies, controls applied, but the crossroads to that, that you need some experience in what you are responsible for. Right. So well said. Well said. So GRC, many of the jobs are not super technical. But I've had some that were definitely technical, like especially the risk management ones. Some of those were very, very technical. Let me see if I have any more questions. Let me see. Somebody said, thank you. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Somebody says salary range of a cybersecurity analyst at entry point. Well, it depends. It depends on, if I'm being truthful with you, it really depends on where you're coming in. Most cybersecurity people are not entry level, just to be honest with you. Most of them have some background in information technology. They worked on the help desk. They were a I don't know, customer support technician. There's a reason, but there are cybersecurity entry level positions. It depends on a few things, like what state you're in. It depends on what your background is, and it depends on what company you work for. These are all factors into how much salary you're going to make. Like, let me just give you an example here. I'll prove it to you. Entry level, maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. Let's all learn together. Cybersecurity jobs, entry level security jobs. We'll put salary. And what you'll notice here, okay, let me show my screen here, and I'll read it to you guys if you happen to be listening to me at some future point in time. What you'll notice here on my screen, what I did was I typed in, I went to Google and I typed in entry level cybersecurity job salary. And first thing it comes up with is as of December 2024, the average salary for an entry-level cybersecurity analyst, okay, so analyst, is $99,000 per year, or $47 per hour. So, and then it breaks it down. If you're an auditor, it's more like 89. And if you're a specialist, an information security specialist, is 118,000. This is in the state of Denver, Colorado. It says in Denver, Colorado, entry-level cybersecurity positions start at 60,000 to 80,000. Certifications like a CISSP or a CEH can increase the salary by 10 to 20%. I said that's pretty accurate. Then they have salary.com, which is an entry-level cybersecurity analyst, is 88,000 to 144,000. That's in Colorado. In ZipRecruiter says 94 to 180,000 in Colorado. Notice how it's saying Colorado because I'm in Colorado, so it's looking at my location. But let's look at, here's one from Virginia, and you'll see that it's a little bit different depending on the state. It's also not just the state, by the way. It also depends on the company, because some companies pay really, really well and some not so well. And it depends on different things. Like sometimes they don't pay so much because they are going to give you, a stipend, or they're going to give you a really good benefits, or they're going to give you stock or something. But here's another one. This is from Virginia, I think. Virginia. Yeah, Virginia. Okay, all of the United States. Okay, here we go. Nationwide, it's 132,000. And I think this is kind of high, to be honest with you, for entry-level position. California, annual salary is 200,000. What? That's crazy. For an entry-level cybersecurity job? I don't know. That doesn't sound right to me. But I would say probably like 90,000, something like that, for entry level cybersecurity analyst. Cybersecurity analyst work is really difficult. Like, I mean, it takes a lot of, it's very, very technical. So not everybody can do it. And it's usually shift work. It's usually shift work. So they pay more because you're working more hours, and your what's the saying? Your main job is to make sure that the seat doesn't hit the ceiling, as as people say. So you're in a seat, you're working shift work 12 hours a day, And so they're, they pay pretty good. That's a cybersecurity analyst entry level position. All right, let me see. How can I switch from a truck driver to GRC? It can be done. So what you're gonna have to do is, the first thing you're gonna have to do is learn as much IT as possible. You're gonna have to learn as much IT as possible. First step. Don't even think about GRC first. Start off with learning basic information technology. That's gonna be a catalyst for everything else you're gonna do. And this goes for any career field. You need to know the basics of information technology. Is really going to help you to blossom your career. You might not even want to go GRC. And like I said, GRC is a very, very broad field. Number one, start off there. Start off for free, because you might not even want to get into this. This is not for everybody, I'm telling you. Start off for free. Go on YouTube and watch random IT videos, guys who are in IT. It might be too boring. It might suck. You might not like it. And if you can stick through that, and if you're like, yeah, I want to learn more, this is what I'm about this life, and you're still watching those free videos, now it's time to invest in yourself. Go ahead and start with like a decently priced course, or a book on tape or something. If you're driving, start listening to or watching paid videos, paid courses on like Udemy or whatever, right? Start off with a low investment, because you don't even know like if you want to go this route. And I'm not telling you anything I haven't done. Like when I wanted to get into cloud, first thing I did was I went to Professor Black Ops site for free, and I start watching his videos. I'm like, okay, is this one, like, do I want to go more into this, and I want to get more technical? Do I want to, like, how deep do I want to go? And I'm watching his videos. I'm like, and then now I'm like, okay, I'm ready to drop some money. And then I went to Udemy, bought a whole course, and then just start watching it, start taking notes. I was serious. I'm like, okay, that's what I want to do. I'm still watching the free stuff, but I'm also buying books. I'm investing in myself. I'm investing the time, money, and resources. This is what you need to do if you're trying to get into IT. What'll happen is it'll start to evolve. When you start off from information technology, the basics, you'll start to see things. You'll start to see things differently. Certain things will click for you. I'll give you an example. Like for me, when I first started, like I said, I was in the Air Force. I was a weapons specialist, right? This is why I can talk to you as a truck driver, because I also was in a career that had nothing to do with information technology. Physical security, yes. So there is some cross section between physical security, and cybersecurity, because you have to physically protect whatever. So I was first interested in programming. When I went in, I just wanted to be a programmer. That was it. I was just fascinated by it. That's all I wanted to do. But when I got into IT and I started learning about Unix and how it works and how apps work with it, and they start telling us about different programming languages, I was intrigued. But what blew my mind was networking. When I learned networking and it just clicked with me and I just understood it and got it, I wanted to do more. And I started going down the path of network engineering. I was still messing around with programming, but I found it a little bit too, I don't know. I liked the old programming languages, but when they got into Objective-C and shit like that, I was like, what the fuck is this? I mean, it's cool, I still mess around sometimes with it, but networking was so awesome to me. I was just blown away by it. So I went deeper and deeper down networking path. You're just once you start to study, you'll just start to see things differently as you get deeper into it. Other things will intrigue you. Maybe for you, it'll be cloud, or maybe AI, or something is going to intrigue you to where it's going to blow your mind, and you're going to start going down that path. You can always come back to GRC. But the best thing you got to do is start information technology fundamentals. That's what you got to do. Kennedy says, could you tell us how you study best? Any interesting methods that you use? Yeah, I had somebody on here that told me a really, really good method of study. And Ryan came on here. One of my old. I haven't had many people that I've interviewed. It's been Professor Black Ops. It's been Will Reed. It's been Chris from Tech Woke, and then Ryan, uh, who I met on LinkedIn. And Ryan, you go back to my lives and watch that one. And he told me a really good study method on there, and it's something that I use. So what I do to study that works for me is, number one, you got to know your study, how you learn, because everybody learns differently. Some people can just listen to a book or listen to something audio learning. They can just listen to something and they got it. If they go to a lecture, they just listen to it and then they got it. Some people are visual learners. If you show them a diagram of how all this works, or that they do a mind map of it, they got it. Some people are what's called tactile, which means they have to write it down or they have to do it. And if they do that, then they got it. So learn whatever your method of memorization is, go with that. Don't go against the grain. Use a little bit of everything, but focus mostly on the way you learn the best. For me, it's tactile for sure. If I do it and I write it down, I got it. I got it. So that's what I do. So I always, like right now, I'm doing cloud. The first thing I did was I went and got free resources. I went online to see if I want to go any deeper with this, and to learn, to know what I don't know quickly. And one of the top people that I went to, in my case, was Professor Black Ops. He was talking about not only AWS, but how do you secure it in a government environment. So that clicked for me because I've been working in a government environment. I wanted to know, like, this is what I do. So I'm watching his videos for free, right? Start off free, low risk, low as risk as possible. That's what you do. Just start. And then once you get more serious, now you're going to have to invest in yourself. Put down some money, buy a course. What I do is I'll buy a book like this book. This is one of the cloud books that I bought, and I'll just read through it. I'll dog ear it. I'll start marking it up. I'll take notes. Now, here's where I start to learn best. I'll take notes based off of something I'm either reading or listening to. Take the notes. Then I'll study my notes. So I'm kind of hitting like two or three different. I'm hitting as many areas of memorization as possible. But when I go through the notes, normally I got it. It just clicks and it's done. I take the notes, I study the notes, then I got it. That's what I do. Another thing I'll do is the last thing I'll do is just go over questions over and over again to get my mind prepared for the question and answer, multiple choice type thing. And lately, one of the best tools I've been able to use to go through that is ChatGPT, because you can talk to ChatGPT. You can upload resources to it, and then you can talk to it, and it'll talk back to you. So I'll tell it, make me questions from the AWS Cloud Certified Practitioner, or the Cloud Certified Cloud Practitioner, and make it multiple choice, interactive, and then it'll start asking me questions. I'll answer the questions, and it'll tell me if I got it right or wrong. And then I'll say, after I did 20 questions, I'll say, okay, what's my score? It'll tell me what my score is. I'm like, what the hell? And then if it's too easy, I'll say, okay, make the questions harder. I tried this with 3 different AIs, and right now ChatGPT has been the best, but I also did it with Google, which was pretty good, and I tried it with Claude. It's better on text than it is on voice. So yeah, that's the way that I've been doing it, and it's been working for me. The notes thing has been working for me for years. Okay, I got some more questions and comments here. Larry says, I've always wanted to a position that had more travel. Have you traveled a lot in GRC field? Is it common to find a position with about 25% travel? Actually, some of my previous jobs in GRC, I did travel. I'm trying to think of of a couple that I did travel. I traveled a lot with this one I was teaching. I was teaching GRC for a company. One of the most brilliant CEOs I've ever met. Probably the smartest person I ever met. A black lady. I'll never forget this lady. She made her own company and then made contracts with the Air Force. She was so smart. She was arguably the smartest human being I've ever met. And I wonder if she's still out there. I need to say what's up to her. She gave me my first six-figure job. So I was traveling quite a bit. The problem with that job was I was traveling like 75%, which was crazy. I mean, if you're traveling over 60%, then basically you're always traveling. But yeah, I was teaching GRC, so I guess that counts. Another job where I did. Here's a big one, Larry. Like if you really want to travel, then what you want to do is I noticed like a lot of the auditor jobs where you're doing assessments, which is technically a GRC job because you're doing risk management. A lot of those risk management type jobs where you're doing assessments, you're traveling. So those jobs you'll be traveling because you got to go to the site and then do whatever. The last travel job I had was at Verizon, where it was about 40% travel or something like that. And we did risk assessments. And that was about 40%. So yeah, there are some. It's going to be like the risk management type positions where you're traveling. But yeah, they have them. They have them out there. I mean, I think that if you don't mind traveling, you can get a job really fast in GRC because a lot of the jobs are either out of state, they're in another state, but they'll pay you way more, or they're travel based. And sometimes they're in another country. Like shout out Simone Bees, who talks a lot about those types of jobs where you go to another country. I did those jobs too, where I was working with the Army and I was a contractor working in country, and you get like you get tax free up to $100,000 or something like that. But that's also a travel type. Well, technically, it's a relocation job because you're going to go there and then you're going to stay there. So, yeah, there are travel jobs for GRC. I've done a few of them. Let me see. I officially start my GRC apprenticeship program with Will Reed, thanks to your podcast. Oh man, shout out Will Reed, man. You're in good hands. That man knows what he's talking about. It was a pleasure to have him on. Great guy. Great guy. Okay, let me see if I got more questions here. Juice says on TikTok, I've been in help desk for 3 years, but haven't found internal growth opportunities yet. There's really opportunities all over the place. You're in a great opportunity. I know it's hard to accept that when you've been in a position you feel like stuck, and you've been there for a while, and you're like tired of your manager, they're micromanaging you and shit like that, and you're like, I got to get the hell up out of here. They're not gonna talk to me like that any kind of way or whatever. But you got to get out of your own head. Like, you are blessed. You are blessed. You are in a position that many people want to be in. And if you are on help desk, you are already doing cybersecurity. You just need to know how to put it on your resume. You have a perception issue that needs to be fixed. And I'll give you some examples. So if you're on the help desk, more than likely you've done many security patches. So that is something where you're doing what we call SI2. You're updating vulnerabilities on the system. Like, that's a very important thing to do. You're doing vulnerability management. You need to put these things on your resume. You're more than likely at some point you've looked at logs. That's continuous monitoring. These are you're doing on a regular basis cybersecurity best practices that you could put on your resume and make yourself either do a lateral change, like where you change within the help desk and go to another part of the department within whatever organization that you're working in, or put it on your resume, update it, post it everywhere on LinkedIn, on Dice, on Monster, and try to get another job somewhere else where you're doing something you like around people you like. But the opportunities are there. You got put it on your resume, all the things you've already done. I'm telling you, anytime people have listened to me, they blow up. They glow up, and one guy who listened to me is making more money than me. I know because he went and worked with me. We worked at the same place, and then that guy's still there, and I left. And him and I talk every now and then. And that guy was making more money than I made when I was there. So, and he was in a regular IT position, and he wanted to train. He was watching my videos, and then he contacted me, sent me his resume. I looked at it, and I was like, this is an app security guy. I said, we need this guy. And then I sent it to my boss, and then they hired him. I mean, it's a longer story than that. Actually, he used some of my methods. He got 2 different jobs. He got the job at the company I was working with and another one. He took that one and then ended up quitting that one and came and worked with us. And so, yeah, so you can do it. The opportunities are there. And I know it's hard. Sometimes we have a block where we get in our own head about what, I mean, I myself am going through this right now. Like I'm blessed. Like I need to remember that. Sometimes my job gets on my nerves. Some of the people I work with, God bless them, not everybody, but the management is like, man, it's like, what are you guys? I'm so frustrated, so I get in my own head. And the thing is, I'm blessed. Like I got to remember that because I have an amazing opportunity that a lot of people don't have. And you always have the opportunity to go somewhere else, but you got to get out of your own way. I'm just trying to help you out. Get out of your own way. You can do it. Help desk is incredible. It's an incredible start. I started on the help desk. I started off as a weapon specialist, and then came into another career path, and then I was a help desk guy. And that's where you learn. Somebody said, I'm in healthcare. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Healthcare has a lot of opportunities as well because they are dealing with patient information. They're protecting sensitive patient information, and they have a huge need for IT security because they're always getting hacked. I mean, if you watch the news, they're not in a good way right now. There's so many issues and they need better IT people. They need a whole better process, really. They need to take security more serious because they're getting hacked a lot. And they have a lot of money they're sitting on. I don't know what they're doing with all this insurance money, but they're definitely not protecting computers. They have a huge need to have IT professionals and protect that patient information. They're always looking for somebody, these healthcare organizations. Somebody said, what's the difference between GRC and risk management framework? So risk management framework, ready? Are you ready? Risk management framework is before let me hold on a second. Let me show you something. Let me show you this. NIST RMF. Okay, let me show you this. This is what we're talking about. I just want to invite everybody else in our conversation here so they're not lost. So risk management framework, I'm assuming you're talking about NIST risk management framework. And this is GRC. This is GRC. Let me explain. Every industry has their own flavor of governance, risk, and compliance because they have different things that they need to protect. The government, the federal government, the U.S. federal government uses NIST RMF, Risk Management Framework, as their method to do governance, risk, and compliance. Governance is in every part of the NIST Risk Management Framework because governance is in the NIST 837 it breaks down all of the cycles that an organization goes through to govern all of their information system securities, information system security systems, information systems. So it has a whole life cycle from birth to death that they're doing this cycle. So the first one is prepare. They are to prepare the system to be built and to have security features on it. The next one is to, very quickly, the next one is to categorize the security of the system, because it might be a low, a moderate, or a high system where it has classified information, or it's a website. Just a common website with public information. So it has different tiers of how much security you can put on it. Then they have to select the controls based off of what level the system is, right? This is all governance. And then they have to apply those security controls. So that's a part of risk management, the risk management piece. Like, we have to control the risks by putting the security features on the system. Then we're going to assess the features of the system. This is all risk management framework. We're going to assess those. That's also risk management. Risk management is managing the level of risk that we're willing to take. And then it goes into, once they have assessed the system, they're going to document all of that, and it's going to go to the authorizing authority. The authorizing or the head of agency is going to be the person who authorizes and says, yay, verily, this is good. The system's good. Yes, there's some risk, but I'm willing to take the residual risks, and we're good for another 3 years. They're accepting a certain level of risk for that system. And all of this has to be within compliance, right? One of the biggest compliance pieces is continuous monitoring. That's the monitoring piece of risk management framework. So the federal government uses the NIST 800 series for governance, risk, and compliance. They use mostly the NIST 837 with all of that cycle that I just explained. And then they also use the NIST 853, which has a category. It's like a catalog of all the security controls that you're going to tailor and match with whatever vulnerabilities and weaknesses you have within your organization to mitigate or to manage the risk, the level of risk that your organization is willing to take. Now, in the same way, an industry like the banking industry, they have a different mission to protect our financial information, right? So they might not use the NIST 800, because with NIST 800, it's kind of focused on certain other things. There's certain things that the banking system has that is kind of special. Like, they have to make sure that people aren't doing fraud. You don't really have a lot of fraud prevention in the NIST 800. So they have to have something like Sarbanes-Oxley, which has certain restrictions to prevent fraud. So they might have to have that one. And then there's certain internal security controls that they have to do that's coming from Sarbanes-Oxley. I'm not saying that they can't use NIST 800 or risk management framework. They can. But there's certain things that they're going to want to do extra to protect from, like, fraud. Retail. That's like anybody using lots of credit card information. They have to use PCI DSS, and they have something similar to the risk management framework. So all of these things are governance, risk, and compliance, but they apply to different industries. So I hope that answers your question. Larry says imposter syndrome is a real thing, but being in like-minded communities like here on ConvoCourses is what I've needed to have since belonging and keeping myself motivated to keep pushing. Yeah, that's a great point. And we kind of talked about this last week. The imposter syndrome is thinking like, man, what, this other person's better than me. This other person knows more. This other person is whatever, right? For me, I just know that I take myself out of my own head. I wish somebody would have told me what I'm telling you guys, because I think had somebody told me that, showed me the big picture, I think I would have felt differently about GRC, because I hated it in the beginning. I mean, I really hated it. All I wanted to do was build things. All I wanted to do was fix networks or whatever. And for a while, I took a huge pay cut just to do that. But I realized, um, my every what I realized is that every industry has issues. Um, in the IT field, like when I was really technical and doing all that stuff, the issue was that technology constantly changes. If you get out there outside the government, shoot, man, you're competing with people all over the world, which is way harder. it's a it's a way bigger pool of way smarter people everywhere. Way harder. Not saying it's impossible, but it's just harder, And then things are constantly changing, and so you got to constantly keep up. And like outside the military, outside of the federal government, it's so fast paced, and we had to constantly do whatever we could to keep up. So we're constantly learning and teaching it, which was fun, but it does get exhausting. Every industry has its own problems. So one of the things about governance, risk, and compliance, especially if you're not technical, if you're not in the technical side, it gets boring. It's evergreen. Like I said, it stays the same. It's just the same stuff. Oh, so I got bored with it. And that was the thing about that, is that I got bored with it and started doing other things. But every area has its own issues. What I've learned about this one is one thing that's fun to me is to teach other people. Like, I wish to tell people what I wish that I would have realized when I was starting out is something that I'll actually enjoy doing. So when I take myself out of my own head and say, look, this is not about me. This is about Larry. This is not about me. This is about me interacting with Professor Black Ops. This is about reaching out to other people. Then I'm out of my own head about it. And I realize, I have a mission. I have a something I'm supposed to be doing. And then I do it. Let me see. LinkedIn jobs search is challenging due to the competition, the filters, oversaturation, and the vague positions. Yeah, I agree. Make sure you push yourself out, like use other platforms other than LinkedIn. Everybody's on LinkedIn these days. So the job market is very, very, it's more competitive on there. So try Monster, try Dice. Don't get roped into just one platform. Like, make sure you go on Dice, on Monster, on Career Builder, like, do multiple platforms. Put yourself everywhere, not just one. It's still going to be difficult, but it's going to give you a better shot. You're going to get more contacts. Way too many other job boards out there besides LinkedIn. Amen. That's exactly what I was just saying. Okay, other stuff from TikTok. Somebody says physical security is slept on. I consult physical security. There's some dudes doing physical security and making bank, crazy bank physical security. Yeah, physical security is no joke either. I mean, it gets into, like, I had my old boss when I was a cop. That guy, he was doing pretty good. He retired out of the Air Force, and I think he went to be a manager at some physical security place, and he was like the head guy there doing consulting. He was making pretty good money. Somebody said I don't have a degree. I have many colleagues who don't have a degree. They have cert and experience. Yeah, that's absolutely possible. That's absolutely possible in this day and age. They're trying to get away from degrees, to be honest with you. And I think that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. I still think that getting a degree is worth it. I'm not one of these people saying, "Oh, don't get a degree, bypass it." I think you should get a degree. I think it's not a bad. I should put it this way: it's not a bad thing to have a degree. Okay, and if somebody tells you don't get a degree, ask them if they have a degree. And then ask them how much money they make for that degree. So I'm not telling you don't get a degree, okay? But I'm telling you that I think it's good that organizations are being more open about saying, okay, we want somebody with just experience and this certification, or we want somebody with just this knowledge and we'll teach you on the job, because the market's moving so fast. it's just moving so fast now that we really need younger people to come in, and there's being this big changeover where the boomers are kind of out of here. They're retiring and stuff, and they're kind of passing the baton over to younger folks, and younger folks think way differently. It's way faster now. Everything's way faster, and the technologies, the risks, the vulnerabilities, everything's more reliant on digital information. So, and now with AI, like everything's moving even faster. So I think it's great that organizations are starting to hire around the degree. And I'll tell you like this, my two first mentors, most brilliant people I met, when I met them, they didn't have degrees. They didn't have certifications either. I had a degree and a certification, and they were teaching me. So just because you have a degree doesn't mean you're smarter than everybody. It's just a piece of paper it's gonna give you a leverage over some people. It's gonna make you more competitive, but it doesn't mean that you're a genius or something. It's definitely not. I mean, I remember actually one of my first contractor jobs when I got out of the military. I was working with dudes there was one guy on my team who had 2 double E's. He had two master's degrees, and one of them was a double E, which is an electrical engineer, which is hella hard. And then there was another guy who had a doctorate, and another dude who had my boss had a master's degree, and I came in with a measly bachelor's degree. And they were asking me all the questions. They asked if they had Unix questions, they came to me. If they had questions about networking, they came to me, because we were just writing policies. And they would come to me about technical questions. So I was the least educated person there on paper, but they were coming to me asking me questions. And then before that job, I was working in the Army, and I was working in the Army. Well, I was a contractor in the Army and working with the Army. And my real good friend to this day, that guy never forget this. He did not have a degree, did not have a certification. I had both. He was teaching me, he was schooling me, running circles around me. And then another time I went to another contracting job, and this dude was the most brilliant person in our whole facility. And this guy had no degree, no certifications. He was teaching me and another guy with a master's degree. So a degree doesn't mean that you're instantly smarter or better than anybody else. Is it good to have? Absolutely. Is it great to have higher education? Absolutely. Is it good to know literature and mathematics? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Let me see. Somebody said with no degree, 6-figure salaries. Yep. Some of my colleagues only have community and still much opportunities. Yep. Okay, let me see. Got more questions here. I'm about to end this. I've been talking for about 2 hours. Thank you guys for staying with me. I appreciate everybody. Happy New Year. Stay up. Stay positive, guys. I know there's a lot of stuff going on right now. Don't worry about stuff you can't control. You know what I mean? Don't get stressed out about stuff you can't control. Focus on what things you can control. So that's what I've been doing. I don't get in my own head about stuff. I don't freak out about all the stuff happening. I'm seeing the news. I'm not ignoring it, but don't worry about stuff you can't control. We cannot control these things that are happening. You know what I mean? So control what you can. Focus on what you can control. So somebody said, where can I volunteer in my state? I have a bachelor's degree in IT and a certification in CS. Computer science. Where can I'm not sure. Like, it depends on what state you're in, but there are places where you can get experience. I would advise you to go join the local ISSA. The local ISSA chapter is going to be a great place where you can interact with a whole bunch of other like-minded people. And a lot of times they'll have like jobs, and they'll have they'll have vendors come in. They'll have people looking for they'll do job fairs. It'll be all local stuff to your state. So I would say try the local ISSA chapter, and it's going to be a great resource for you. Somebody said, "Am I?" Let me see. Are you talking about all the Trump stuff? Nah, I mean, I'm not talking. I'm talking about anything, like all the. I don't know. I didn't even want to mention it, but just there's just a lot of stuff going on right now in the news. Not necessarily the election, but for some people, it. Not all of us are jumping up and down about the decision. You know what I mean? I'm hoping for the best. You know what I mean? Just like with every administration, you never know what the hell they're gonna do. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't go well. For me. But let me see. I want to show you guys the local ISSA chapters. You guys know what I'm talking about. So this is Denver's, just to give you an idea. So this is my local, well, not mine, but one of the closer Information Systems Security Association. And let me show you what they do here. So they'll have different meetings, like once a month, sometimes twice a month. And then the local vendors, like Rapid7 is there, Force Scout. They'll come in and sometimes they'll sponsor our meetings. They'll have lunches and stuff where they'll talk about. Of course, they're trying to sell a product, but sometimes we'll have like job fairs there and stuff like that. Let me go to the job and news, see if there's anything new going on. Look at this. Here's one from the ISSA. My local ISSA chapter says, we're actively recruiting in Denver right now. This is Bank of America. The roles: Java developer, access management, product management, a CTI, enterprise threat intelligence analyst, defender platform integration spec. Don't let these names fool you. Some of them are they just want a cybersecurity guy in some of these cases. So this is just one example. Look, WS, a security engineer. So these are all, they're looking for jobs. Like this is 180,000. Wait, what is this job right here? Well, check, this is $180,000, 225,000. Wait a minute. Okay, hold on a second. I gotta check this job out. Oh, anyway, so yeah, to that person. I don't know if you're still watching me, but for anybody really, if you're looking for work or a community in your local area, go ahead and check out your local ISSA chapter. Just type in ISSA near me, ISSA security near me, and you'll find an organization, a chapter that meets regularly. It might be in a city near you or something like that. Somebody said, Diamond says, when does this launch? Your books are phenomenal. Oh, thank you so much, Diamond. I appreciate that. I'm still working on it. I'm really, I get writing on stuff and I got to stop myself from doing it, but I'll just sit there and like focus and then keep expanding it and changing stuff. So I need to give myself a hard date on it, and it'll be done in February, right? And if it's not done, you can slap the shit out of me. I really had to get it done because actually I have the first draft, but I keep going back and like adding stuff and stuff like that. So everything is going to be around that book, and then I'm going to expand out from there to do a course and everything. So Mike says regulations will be taken down. It'll be great for us in IT. I'm ISO, by the way. Maybe we'll see. We'll see how it goes, right? Like I'm not saying they don't have good ideas. I'm not saying that I disagree with everything they're saying and stuff. You just never know. Like sometimes you're happy about it, about administration. I really don't put my fate in any administration, to be honest with you. I think that our fate is in our own hands. So I was really referring to all the terrorism stuff going on. That's what I was talking about. I wasn't talking about Trump. Um, Somebody said H1B, HB1. Yeah, whatever. I don't worry about stuff like that. I think H1B, HB, whatever it's called, I don't think it's bad. I mean, it doesn't affect me because I'm work mostly in the spaces I work in are mostly for US citizens. So yeah, so I'm not affected by it. I think it's good that we have more. I wish that they would be more open about bringing people to the US. I think that the reason why the US is so dope at like industry and like creativity and you name it, the reason why we're so good is because there's so many people, different people here. You know what I mean? Like we're taking the best of every culture and the worst. We're taking the best and worst of every culture all over the world, and it's here. And that's the reason why we have the best technology, the best almost like there's a lot of things that this country's been good at because we've been inclusive, and then go off the best idea. But to try to limit that now, I don't think it's a good idea. I just don't think it's smart. That's just my personal opinion, but we'll see. The HB1, H1B guys don't that doesn't affect it does affect IT, and I understand what people are like upset about, but I mean, honestly, like a lot of Americans don't want these jobs. That's why we can't get anybody. I think I have a different take on it. Like a lot of folks are saying, "Oh, there's no jobs, there's no," and I'm kind of have a different idea about it. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities, but a lot of people are not taking advantage of it. That's what I feel like there's opportunity everywhere. I feel like we're in an incredible position. Just hear me out. Just hear me out. Look, in my lifetime, the internet has blown up. Social media has blown up. Cryptocurrency, like it or not, is like a multi-trillion dollar industry. So you got blockchain, and now you got AI. So you've got like 3 or 4 transformative technologies that have happened in our lifetime. You're gonna tell me there's no opportunity in that? Are there some industries that have laid off people? Yes. Yeah. Was it better in 2022 when there was all these jobs, or 2021 or whatever year it was? There's been peaks and valleys. That's how this thing goes. But I think that we live in this amazing time right now where there's all these opportunities that we can take advantage of. Hell, if you can't find a job, you can make a job. Do you know that there's people making $1 million talking like this right now? There's people streaming making $1 million streaming. Have you ever heard of Kai Cenat? Like these kids, man, they're just. I mean, can you imagine that? Look at what's happening. It's amazing. There's so many opportunities, and it's not the president or the government who's going to control that. They can try, and if they try to suppress it, it's just going to go somewhere else. And I mean, I think that we live in an amazing time, and we don't have to try to hoard our technology or hoard our. Well, probably some of the technologies probably should be hidden, but what I mean is, you don't have to try to keep people out of the country in order to preserve jobs or whatever. I mean, if you're a fan, I'm not, but if you are a fan of Elon Musk, he's a foreigner. He's not from here. I mean, you do know that, right? I just think that, like, I think that the more we try to allow the smartest and best people from all over the world, and really just people who want to be here, because some people don't even want to be here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if people want to be here, I think we should make a way for them to legally be here. But I don't know. I'm a weirdo, so don't listen to me. Let me see. What is the name? What's his page name? Okay, I don't know what that was talking about. Can you train me? Okay, I'm on TikTok. I'm reading the last of my questions here. What's your first job that you got to go to do cybersecurity? What's the first job before you go to cybersecurity? What's the first job before? Oh, what's the first job before you go to cybersecurity? Anybody? There's a few ways to get into cybersecurity, but one of the best ones is a help desk job. That's why there was a guy on here saying, "Oh, I'm on help desk. I've been stuck here for 3 years or something." That's the best job to get into cybersecurity, bro. It's the best job, hands down, the best. Well, you might have some admin server guys, but the server guys usually don't like really leave doing servers. So help desk is one of the best starts for cybersecurity, I think, in my opinion. But I don't know if you were asking my first job before cybersecurity or in general. I think you meant in general. In general, in my opinion, it's IT help desk. Because with IT help desk, and somebody could say SOC analyst, but SOC analyst is a cybersecurity job. So before you're a SOC analyst, I would say help desk would be a better, because you're learning customer service. Cybersecurity, a lot of people don't talk about it, but you got to talk to people a lot. Especially GRC cybersecurity. You're going to get exposure to workstations, the network, how people interact. A lot of the problems we have is not just hacking. Usually, it's like mishaps. It's like people misconfiguring things. It's human behavior that makes cybersecurity so difficult, because people are doing weird shit on the network. They're doing weird shit on the network, and that's a lot of times they're downloading stuff they're not supposed to, or they're downloading stuff they're supposed to download, but it gets misconfigured, or it's just old. So you get a lot of exposure to that in the help desk. So in my opinion, help desk is the best job before you go to cybersecurity, any cybersecurity position. I was laid off. Do you have any jobs open in company mid-level security engineer? Yes, there's a ton of jobs. Email me. I'm telling you, even the place I work at has a ton of jobs open right now. But the best way is just to go to Monster, Dice, Career Builder, and LinkedIn, and put your resume everywhere. And don't stop until you have a job. Don't quit don't quit just because people didn't take you for the first job you had an interview for. Just keep going. Don't stop. You only fail if you quit. But is there jobs that I know of right now, like that I'm working at right now, that need people? Hell yes. I'm telling you, there's jobs. I don't know what people are talking about, man. There's jobs. I'm 21 and I started classes in cybersecurity. I want a role that's not crazy technical, if possible. They have it in cybersecurity. What you want to do if you're in school right now is start doing some if there's a way for you to help with the IT staff to learn, because what you want to do is learn as much hands-on as possible. That will open doors for you to do the non-technical IT jobs, cybersecurity jobs. They exist, but you still have to know you have to know IT as much as possible. And then you can get the types of jobs I'm talking about is teaching. So there's some teaching jobs I've had that have been awesome, where it wasn't super technical. It's basically what I'm doing now. I just had an audience in front of me. And then let me see, another non-technical cybersecurity job, policy writing. I used to write policies, but the thing is, if you don't know nothing about IT, how can you write a policy about it or a procedure about it? That was the best job I've ever had. Like, I was writing policies. That's it. I'm super good at that. And they paid me hella money to do that. those were non-technical jobs. And I've had more than one of those. They do exist. But you got to know the basics of IT first, and then you can get into those jobs. How technical is GRC compared to other cybersecurity roles? Compared to other cybersecurity roles, it depends, because GRC can be technical. I've had very technical jobs, where I was GRC, but I was very technical. But I had some that were not so technical, where I was just, like I said, writing policies. So it just depends on what position it is. GRC is a very, very, very broad term. It's governance, it's risk management, and compliance. They wrap them all together. Do you have experience in high trust or high tech? No. I have not messed around with high trust or high tech. A little bit of HIPAA, like very little bit of HIPAA stuff. But no, I don't have experience in that. Somebody said, have you thought about retiring? Let's keep it real. The BS that's going on these contracts, companies, departments. Yeah, I've thought about it. I ain't gonna lie. I have definitely thought about it, man. Sometimes I'm so frustrated. What I've been doing on the back end that I really don't talk about is the writing is really helpful to me, and then also real estate investments that I do on the back end, and that just stuff like that is what I'm doing for future. I'm probably not going to do this forever, so I'm definitely not going to do this forever. It does get a little frustrating. I've thought about starting my own thing. It's just sometimes, the politics, the internal politics does get to me sometimes. So yes, I have thought about it, Mike. That question only comes from somebody who really knows. Can you read the comments? I'm trying. I work for Sentinel Foundation. What do you think of Ryan Montgomery? I have no idea who that is or what's going on with that. Somebody asked about Professor Black Ops on TikTok. Professor Black Ops currently does not have a TikTok. He does have a YouTube channel. Just type in, let me see. What do you type in to find Professor Black Ops? If you didn't know his name, I want to say you could just type in Professor Black Ops on YouTube, and then you just type in Professor Black Ops. And he's the number one guy under Professor Black Ops. Yeah, just go to YouTube and type in Professor Black Ops. You'll find him. Let me see more questions. What concentration you can recommend? Can you recommend for master degree cybersecurity? If it was me, I would either do, if there was a concentration in cloud or machine learning or artificial intelligence, I would do one of those if I were you. The reason why is because right now cloud is still super hot. It's getting bigger. I mean, it's just getting bigger and bigger. If you have some experience in it, if the concentration gives you hands-on, boy, oh boy, that's awesome for cloud. It's the most marketable right now. And then the up and coming thing is going to be machine learning or generative AI. So if you can do either one of those, I would do one of those. If you had to choose between the two, it depends on what you like. For me, if I was you, I'd do artificial intelligence, but that's just me. But maybe the sure thing is going to be cloud. So AI is still kind of a baby. but it's a baby that's growing really, really fast. Your YouTube videos are very helpful. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Very good question on the master's degree. Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate you. It says, what's the best way to get some IT experience on an entry level? What's the best way to get IT experience in entry level? IT experience entry level. Currently, I'm getting a DoD 8570 ex-military, and I'm trying to understand the context of your question. Do you mean like what's the best way to get entry level experience for IT? I think that's what you mean. It depends on where you're at. If you might be in an industry where you can get your hands on a computer. Like a really good situation would be if I don't know, if you're in retail and you had an opportunity to like update some point of sale devices or something like that. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm trying to like think outside the box. Like if you were in retail, if I was in retail and I really want to do IT, a point of sale device in a lot of cases is a computer. So if you can get if there was you had a task where somebody had to volunteer to update those point of sale devices, and you could apply this to anything. Like if you're in healthcare industry, you had medical devices and you were a nurse practitioner and you wanted to get an IT, and you could get your hands on these medical devices that all need to be updated, but somebody had to do it. Nobody knew how to do it. Nobody knew how to do it. You can get in there and start messing with them, and then you can put that on your resume. So that'd be an entry level thing that you can say that you did in that industry. If you are a student, see, it kind of depends on where you're starting from. If you're a student, the best thing to do is before you even finish your degree, like be a working student. My man is like a working student. Like he's working on his master's degree or his bachelor's degree, and he's a working student. By the time he gets out, he'll have like 2-3 years of help desk experience. Like he can take his pick of where he wants to go. You can do internships, you can do apprenticeships, but you said you're ex-military. Okay. Ex-military depends on your MOS or your AFSC. So if you, like one of my in-laws, they came to me and said, oh, I'm thinking about going into IT and stuff, and asked me questions about it. And he was a mechanic, and I was like, oh shit, that's perfect. And I said, well, what do you, he said he did avionics. I said, this will be easy for you. I said, this will be easy for you because mechanics are doing way more complex stuff than IT in some cases. So I gave him a list. I said, look, learn these IT basics. Like this stuff will be easy for you to learn this, learn this, learn this. I gave him a list, and then gave him some, like, basically what I'm telling you guys. And I just put it in the email. And, it depends on what your MOS in AFSC is, but there's ways you can start right now, get hands-on. You could get old equipment that's around you and network it together and start getting hands-on that way. As a person in the military, you might already have a clearance. That clearance, if you're on the East Coast, there's some organizations who will take you in because you have a clearance, because it costs them money to get you a clearance. If they have to have a clearance, they'll take you in, give you on-the-job training, but you have to have some knowledge of information technology. So it kind of depends on your MOS is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So if you happen to be if you're doing help desk jobs, not help desk, but like you're a HR person in the military, you might have some spare time. Actually, you might be working on Microsoft 365 or something. You can use some of that, like some of the stuff that you're doing on your desk. You could use some of that you're doing. Like you just don't know what you're doing. You don't know what can apply to information technology. But I'm telling you, there might be something, depending on what work you're currently doing, that does apply to being entry level already. But in addition to that, you do need to learn basic information technology, and you can also build your own stuff in-house. Is this live being recorded? Yeah, I can chop this up and put it in the parts. Mike says, I'm thinking to do my master's, almost done with certifications. Master's is definitely going to increase your salary potential. Master's degree, I've thought about it myself, especially whenever I've thought about doing like management, because a lot of management positions, they require a master's degree. There's a couple things that have required a master's degree, but I haven't been qualified because I don't have one. But one was this university has a great job to teach cyber, and I was like, oh shit, I could do it. They're paid pretty good, and they required a master's degree, so that was out. And then another one was like Verizon. When I was there, they had a really good management position, but no, if you didn't have a master's degree, you couldn't even apply for it. And so a couple other jobs I've had were the same way. I think Northrop was like that too. There's a certain level of manager, you had to have a master's degree or be working on one. So certain companies require, when you get to this other tier that pays way better, by the way, way more money, you have to have a master's degree. So it's good to have. Like, it's gonna weed out more competition for you, that's for sure, especially with certain positions. There's also been other position jobs that required a master's degree, but it paid really, really well, and I couldn't do it because I didn't have a master's degree. So it's not a bad thing to have. When are you coming back? I do this every weekend on Saturdays, Mountain Standard Time, between hours of around 12 to about 2. What are some good opportunities in DC metro area? Actually, it's DC, Maryland, Virginia. That whole area has the most cybersecurity jobs probably in the world. I'm not even messing with you. Probably on planet Earth has the most opportunities for information system security, cybersecurity, GRC, because you've got all the three letters are there. You got CIA, you got FBI, you got NSA, you got DOD, you got the Senate is there, the whole legislative branch, you got the executive branch, and I think you got the judicial branch part, most of it. So you got all those branches, and I'm not even talking about working directly for them. A lot of times it's a contractor, because they mostly hire out. So it's a contractor. Not only are they the biggest employer of GS positions and stuff, like you can work directly for them, but they have a bunch of contractors that work with them. And there's all kinds of companies that you could form your own company there if you know enough. Like, you can start your own company and do a contract with them and make way more money. Or you could work for one of those companies, and then they have subcompanies, subcontractors that work with them. So this is like this gigantic job market in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area that has so many jobs. And cybersecurity is it's probably the most people hired in cybersecurity there. They definitely have the most mathematicians and cryptographers, because that's all NSA. So yeah, they have probably the biggest employer of cybersecurity in that area. Everything like information system security officers, cybersecurity analysts, SOC analysts, threat intelligence agents, and you've got cyber threat intelligence, hunter. I mean, all kinds of stuff is there. How long is your course going to take? I'm going to try to make it short. I'm going to try to get straight to the point on it. I think it's better to have a short course. Having taken courses myself, I kind of like them shorter. Like, one of the ones I made is like 20 hours long. It's probably not a good idea to make it that long. I think I'm just going to make it like short, sweet, to the point, and then get people in and out of there, and then get more like hands-on type stuff that you can do. Oh my Lord. This is okay. I got too many questions. I'm gonna have to end this here. It's been 2 hours and 30 minutes. I have not done a video this long in a long time. I appreciate everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you for your questions, for your comments. Appreciate you. I am out of here. I will be back here next week, same time, around. So if you want to catch me, once again, I'll like advertise it early. I'll do around 12 to around 2 Mountain Standard Time, Saturday. See you guys later. Thanks for watching.